Hello and welcome everybody to OrangeJuiceCast. I'm here today joined by a man who has won 5 dick swinging contests in a row in... God, why do I even try this without even preparing? It's Matt.
Hello.
What do you mean by winning them in a row? Back to back?
Just with himself.
I mean, 5 across like the course of a year is that much of an accomplishment because of the amount of events.
No. Yeah.
But when you do it in a row, it's grueling. But I managed to clutch out that 5th one.
Yeah.
Clutched out the 5th.
Yeah.
So.
And also joining me is the man who lost 5 in a row dick swinging contest with Matt. it's Martin.
I'm still envious.
Clutch.
We are here today to talk about, as you may know, there is a horrible, deadly pandemic virus going around, and so we've all stayed inside and watched films and TV. So we're going to talk about what we've watched.
Yes.
Yeah. Who would like to start off with a film/TV show that they watched?
I don't know. Do you want to start with Under the Skin? I sort of want to start with Under the Skin.
Yeah, go for it. I've watched a lot of films from like 2020, so I'll leave those until like midway through because I'm assuming most people haven't actually watched them.
So Under the Skin. What year? I don't even know. What year?
2013.
2013.
Yeah. Okay. 2013. Yeah. Under the Skin. Indie horror, light, more thriller-ish movie starring Scarlett Johansson, set in Scotland. The whole movie is just basically revolves around her. There's not much to it. It's like an indie movie, right? However, it's extremely abstract and extremely unsettling. If you could pick one word to kind of sum it up, it would be unsettling. There's so much in it, which is just like everything down from the way it's shot to how long some of the shots just kind of hold on one sort of thing or one sort of face, or one shot just holds for ages. And then on top you have the music, which is some sort of like distorted, wiry, like violins going off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's obviously the point of the movie. It's not supposed to be a shock horror, a scare a minute thing. It's just supposed to be kind of a slow burn, disturbing movie, and it is. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting. One of those movies where I watched it for the first time. I watched it obviously, and then as soon as I finished watching it, I was like, that was okay. I sort of enjoyed it. It was all right. But then over the coming days, I've just kind of kept thinking more and more about it, which is the sign that it of a good movie. I think sometimes I didn't immediately finish that movie and was like, wow,
yeah,
amazing. And let me recommend this to everyone I know. I finished the movie and I was mostly like, what I just watched, but then after you kind of process it over several days, there's just a lot to like about it.
Yeah.
Who directed it? Do you know?
I do not know.
Oh, it's some random Scotch dude.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I've had it downloaded for so long and I haven't watched it, but I keep meaning to. So
2013 was like Avengers and stuff, wasn't it?
2012 was Avengers.
Right,
so
right.
The year after. Yeah.
So in kind of the height of this, first of all, it's Scarlett Johansson. It's not like she's some unnamed fucking actress, but in the height of all the Marvel fame and whatnot, and doing all these massive blockbusters, she does this weird Scottish indie movie, which is all just about her being a weird alien robot thing. You don't really find out, but and that's not a spoiler. That's evident from the first opening scene, and it's just I don't know, like credit to whoever.
You could say the entire plot with one sentence, and it not really be a spoiler because that's it kind of gives. I mean, it's right. It's just someone experiencing being an alien on Earth.
Yeah, just basically.
And then I guess
sure.
But there's much more of a sinister side to it. It's not like, oh, how do the humans work? It's like she's clearly being controlled by another character who you see but never speaks, and you never find out about. And she's being controlled to do sinister things, shall we say, without giving it away.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And it's it's a
really interesting premise.
Yeah, a lot of things go wrong, shall we say, in that movie for a lot of people. But yeah, I just almost credit to her for doing this weird Scottish indie film with basically no other actors in it who are any sort of names, and she just kind of carries the entire movie. There's no shot where she isn't in it. There's no scene with she is the movie, and she didn't have to do this weird Scottish thing, disturbing weird movie, and she did, and it's interesting. I don't think it's like the best thing ever, but in a way, it could have been an average movie about an alien woman, but instead it was some sort of disturbing horror.
Yeah, it stuck with me.
Yeah.
Credit to her. She smashes through like an Infinity War and then just goes straight into like Marriage Story, Jojo Rabbit, and just like, she chooses the projects that she thinks has potential.
Yeah.
And she's really good in them always. So
if I had to be critical about it, it does fall into the kind of I'm an indie art film trap a few too many times, in the sense that it does that. This is high indie art thing where there'll be a shot of a face or a shot of a mirror or something, and this shot is just that. There's nothing else moving. It's just a shot of a mirror, and it will hold and hold and hold and hold, and you just sort of the effect almost kind of goes away from disturbed to just, why am I still staring at this mirror where there's nothing happening? It falls into that a couple too many times, and it repeats itself a lot. There's a thing, I don't want to spoil it, there's a thing which she does constantly, and the first time you don't know what's happening really, so it's really interesting, and the second time you know what she's doing now, so it's even more like disturbing. But I think it happens like 4, maybe 5 times, and it's like, okay,
can you reference that without like spoiling it?
It's when the people come back to her house.
Oh, okay. I was actually going to talk about that because that's my favorite parts of the film.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to talk about it? Can you?
We can tell it. It's just like I was going to say, like similar to High Life, a film I made Jazz watch. It has a really weird sex scene, and I think that basically is a sex scene. Really
basically, with no sex, but yeah.
Yeah. A high art, weird indie abstract sex.
Yeah, and that's sort of
that's what I want from my films.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah, watch it. Definitely watch it. But also, if you're the type of person that likes answers, the type of person that likes conclusions, then this is not the film for you. It is left way open. They don't explain anything. Nothing is given to you. You sort of just got to go along with the ride.
In fairness, I kind of like films that sometimes leave it up to your own. Like Ex Machina sort of like gives you your, like, says, this is what's happened, make your own interpretation of what potentially could happen in the future sort of thing. But
yeah. But at the end of Ex Machina, that scene where kind of the robot android steps out into the human, that is like that kind of, I wonder what's happening here, runs for the entire length of Under the Skin. There's no sort of any point. There's no point where you're very sure what exactly is really happening.
Okay, so that actually,
you have to go with it.
That sounds very similar to a film I watched, except to a degree of 100,000 times. I will talk about it for 2 minutes, and then we'll move on to a film we've all watched or something.
Okay.
It's a film called Mulholland Drive, directed by David Lynch in 2001. A lot of people have said it's like one of the best movies ever made. It's like essentially the premise is like a mystery of someone's in a car crash on Mulholland Drive after being like held up by gunpoint, and then she loses her memory and she has to piece back who she is and stuff, and it's sort of like a mystery about murder in Hollywood, like film studios and stuff. But because it's David Lynch, nothing makes sense. Lots of things happen really weirdly. Like there's a whole scene where a man talks to a police officer you've never seen these characters before in your entire life, and they're talking about like how he's had a dream about how he came into this diner, saw this like scary thing down the road and died, and so they go, come on, let's check it out. Goes down the thing, sees a scary thing, and he dies. And then that's it. That's the last thing you'll see of these characters. But in fairness, there's lots of like really disturbing imagery that sticks with you. And like I had to look up like interpretations afterwards, and I was sort of like, I still don't really understand it. Spoke to Otis, and he was like, it's just. He said a really good quote in that David Lynch is very good at capturing what a dream feels like on screen, and it's all just like, I mean, it makes sort of sense, sort of. No, it doesn't really, but like, yeah, I mean, it's too much for me. I don't know, it's too abstract for me.
Okay, I see.
But like, I think it's an experience, and I reckon I might enjoy it more if I watched it again.
Yeah, maybe the difference with like something like Under the Skin is, although they don't give you any answers to anything and there's no context to any of it, it does all feel very real. There's nothing flashy in this movie. There's no big sets. It's like it looks like they've just taken taken a camera around. Is it Glasgow or Edinburgh?
Yeah. I think it's Edinburgh. So much so I thought like some of the scenes where she's talking to random people in Scotland, I'm almost certain that's surely not actors.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah,
that adds to kind of how disturbing it is, because nothing about it feels like a film. There's shots where it's just like a shot of like a shopping centre and people just walking around and stuff, and it but it's so real. I almost feel like they just set up a camera in Glasgow at a shopping centre and they just use the footage. And all the other actors in the movie, apart from her, are just not even like, no, I don't even know if they're actors. Do you know what I mean? I almost feel like they've pulled these people off the street and did a scene with them, because it just feels so real. So I say watch it, but know what you're getting into. Like it's not the easiest of watches, but it is thought provoking afterwards.
It's slow, very slow paced as well.
Very, very, very slow. Yeah.
Right, Martin. Let's move on to a film that you've watched.
Where shall I start? Let's start with Horse Girl.
Sure.
Nice.
I don't know anything about this, so please tell me.
Okay. So it's probably a good segue to go from Under the Skin. Oh man, I wish I paid enough attention to the movie. It was just not good. It was basically Alison Brie. She is really good in it.
I like her.
Basically, me too. And she kind of starts to lose her mind, and she starts. Also, there's no real reason why it's called Horse Girl.
I was really hoping it would be like something out of Sorry to Bother You.
Yeah. Basically, she kind of starts to lose her mind, and then there's a large chunk of the film where you're thinking, like, is this really happening, or is this in her mind? And then, did I even fall asleep, or did I just lose that much interest? This is how much I don't know about the film, really. I think it's meant to be a kind of message on mental health and how people are viewed with mental health disorders.
Yeah.
Also, it was like an hour and a half, 2 hour film in which from very early on you're like, oh, is it real? Is it not? And I think after about 20 minutes of that, like, interest waned, because I was just like, I don't care.
Yeah,
I just want to know if it's real already. Yeah. It wasn't even like ramping up. It was just like she'd go to sleep and then she'd wake up with scratches on the wall after a dream about some monster or some shit like that.
Oh.
And then the next day, like something very similar threat level happens. And I was like, okay, can you just tell me if it's real or not? But she does. I do remember zoning back in at the end of the film when she's walking around naked in a shopping centre with like her boobs out, and then I think she walks up to a horse and then it ends. I think that might be it. Honestly,
I fucking hope so. Otherwise, you've weird shit on the dark web or something.
That kind of yeah. This is, you just watched a snuff film, Martin.
That wasn't a Horse Girl at all. There's some Horse Girl fans out there. Like, what did this guy watch?
That actually makes sense though, as to why it's called that, because I suppose that's the like mental breakdown thing that she would be known for online.
Well, I think
like she's the horse girl, etc.
Horse Girl is like a meme, right? I think that's.
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah, like there's always one girl in class who weirdly loves.
Oh
horses,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
is that? Oh, I don't know the internet apparently.
Yeah, that's what a Horse Girl is. Like, it's the girl that weirdly loves horses too much. There's always one. And to be honest, if I think back to my car,
threading that in a bit,
I can sort of see. Yeah, there was a few.
I've dated a couple.
Girl who loved.
What, horses?
Yeah.
Hey! Great stuff. So would you watch it again, Martin, or would you recommend it?
No.
Okay.
Never. Not even to. I think I watched it with my girlfriend. She fell asleep. She doesn't normally fall asleep during movies. It was a tough watch.
Right.
I can't really say much about it because I don't really remember much about it, which I think is a review in itself.
Fair enough.
Fair enough, mate.
Unforgettable, basically.
Okay.
Next film.
Yeah, sure. Why don't we move on to a film I think we've all seen that came out last year, but none of us managed to get to see it in time for the Oscars. A film called 1917.
Yay! I saw this at the IMAX.
Oh,
Get me.
Shit!
Get me.
I saw it on a phone. No, no. I saw it on a TV. So it's interesting to compare the experience because I bet it would have been a lot better.
It was a birthday present, I saw it on the IMAX. I liked this movie.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's almost the opposite of how I feel about Under the Skin. And what I mean by this is that I didn't really like Under the Skin when not that I didn't like it. I finished watching Under the Skin, the credits roll, and I thought to myself, well, I don't really know what to make of that. And then in the days going past that, I then thought about it more and it weighed on my mind a bit, and I had a bit more of appreciation for Under the Skin. 1917, the complete opposite.
I forgot more and more about it after I left.
I agree, yeah.
The film ended, and I was like, that was awesome. And I never thought about it again. I never really thought about a single scene, really. Well, maybe, but I don't know. It's one of those things where, for me, it's clearly brilliantly shot. And
yes.
I love the kind of, I know it's fake, but I love the attempt at the everything's in one shot.
Yeah, sure. Craft idea, isn't it?
It makes sense as well thematically. It's supposed to be like a journey that happens in one go. There's no breaks. Yeah, so it works well that way. And like some of the obviously like the set design and the shots are all like beautiful and stuff. It's really impactful and thrilling. But at the end of the day, there's no message here apart from like
war bad.
This might sound a bit crass, but it's shooty, bang, bang, war. And it's done really well, but that's almost all there is to it.
Yeah.
And war's bad, and then it ends. So I don't want to be too harsh on it, because I do think you should see it if you haven't seen it. Because once you're along for the ride while you're watching it, it does feel a bit like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of twists and turns that you don't really know what's happening. It's hard to predict.
That's a very good way of putting it. It is more of a roller coaster than a film.
Yeah, and like I said, there's definitely points where you're definitely on edge during it, and you're like because of how intense is the word, how intense it is. You did a good job at making it feel like just a bombardment of just senses, and because there's no cuts, hard cuts, and there's no say time skip or any point where a character goes to sleep and wakes up. It's all one journey. There's no rest. There's no like respite from it. There's no break from the intensity. Which is really good, and like it gets you to feel like almost tired in a way, like watching it. And I think it's a good thing to feel, especially about a movie where a guy has to trek across the dead man zone and etc. But yeah, apart from that, there isn't anything below the surface level, which is fine. Not all movies have to be, but it's just something which I would have maybe liked if there was a little bit more in there, which said something other than sort of war bad.
Sure,
but.
No, that's it. I mean, I liked a lot of the sequences in it. They're like the bit where you go underground and the fucking rats come out, and you sort of think they're quite innocuous, like, oh, it's just rats, and then it's like, oh shit, they've actually, this really interesting set piece they've just made up, and like some of the like damage that some of the characters receive on the way through it. You're like, oh my god, this person's going to die in like a second because of sepsis or whatever. And like, it's really, really great stuff, I think, from the first, like, you get the characters from the trenches until, I'd say, after the aeroplane, and then when you're walking through the orchard, because it's like really wonderful sweeping shots by it's the bloke who did it's Roger Deakins, isn't it?
That's
the cinematographer.
Oh, the cinematographer,
yeah. And like, I think everything before the plane is like really, really good, but after that it sort of like becomes there's a couple of like little scenes that sort of like they were written into the movie to. I don't know why. Like almost to like have a sort of message or like war bad. And like he like survives from like running away from German soldiers. He's shot. He's completely battered, and then he just randomly comes upon the encampment of American soldiers or English soldiers or whatever. And I'm like, well, where's the like border patrol? Why is he sitting here listening to a song rather than warning of the impending doom?
Yeah.
And then why does he runs across the like what's it called, the no man's zone? No man's land. No man's land. While the soldiers are charging across, and I know that was only in the film so that they could have that shot, not for any purpose. Like I would absolutely never. I'd never do that. Shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I really like that shot though.
It's a really good shot. No, don't get me wrong, but it's just like, why would anybody do this? Like, stay in the trench. Just don't die. If you die, everybody dies, you idiot. So yeah, I do agree. It's sort of like, if it was going for a theme of, I thought at the end it was going to go for a theme of pride, or like, you know, not listening to decisions because of, or something like that way. But it doesn't. It's just a war movie that you can sort of turn your brain off and look at the pretty visuals.
Mm-hmm. But in a way, I sort of like that. I'm a bit torn for the reasons why I'm sort of criticizing it. Wasn't really. I almost like that it's not, and I almost like that there's no overarching message in this. There's no big change. It's not like the generals are like, oh wow, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to change now. No, it's like the generals like, this is war, you know, and they continue on doing World War I things as they did. And I sort of like that. There's not a lot of fanfare in the ending, which I also really like. I half expected a big fanfare.
Yeah.
Despite
it's just sort of a go patch yourself up, mate.
It's like yeah, they're like, okay, cheers, and go away now. And it's great.
Yeah.
I really like that. Definitely watch it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But,
it's more like watching artwork, I'd say, than it is like like story narrative. It's just like, oh, this is a really nice ride.
Yeah, definitely one of those movies which is like a really, visually heavy, not particularly story or character driven heavy. Yeah. But that's okay. Like, movies can be that.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've sort of seen one of those, so don't want to sound too harsh. Everyone should definitely watch it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, especially for like, just kudos to like the craftsmanship. Some of the set design, all the stuff that goes kind of unnoticed in a lot of the other films. I really kind of, especially like that No Man's Land.
Yeah.
I know it's just a fucking field, and it turned up to look ugly. It was really like.
Yeah, the way they designed it.
There's a lot of war films that are just like too glorified and make you kind of want to even, follow in their footsteps or whatever. Whereas this was like, war is fucking horrible.
Yeah, it's really fucking gross.
But no, like they could have, like another film would have just done a big field and it would have had like holes in it. But like this one, like they're in the mud and they're like having to climb over the like dead, rotting horses and stuff.
And they're crawling down the craters and then over and crawling through things. It's like there's a real like sense of like, even though this is like 50 meters of land, it's like it feels massive and like really detailed. Yeah, it's good. Good. It's the Colossus ride thought park of cinema films, I'd say.
See, I just quickly, and then we'll move on. I never saw this movie, but I do want to watch. So, would you recommend to someone? Well, I think you've both seen this. Would you recommend to someone? Would you rather tell them to watch 1917 or say Dunkirk?
I've watched Dunkirk.
I think Dunkirk's a much better film.
I think Dunkirk's a much better film too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
There you go.
I think it's got some really good characters.
Yeah.
I really feel really felt something by the end for the main character.
I'd say it's more heart pounding in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah. And the soundtrack's amazing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But they're both good. They are both good war films.
They're both very similar in just I don't know. I feel like they had more depth to their characters in Dunkirk. I'd say maybe I cared about each of the characters and whether or not they did, and also the sort of plot device of the different timelines was interesting in my opinion. So yeah, watch them both. Let's move on to another film. Matt, why don't we move on to another film that you've seen?
Okay. You guys have both seen Snowpiercer, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
I know I'm late to the Snowpiercer party, but they're somewhat relevant considering...
the Bon High.
Yeah.
Bang that bong.
The Parasite coverage and hype. So the only reason I really watched this is because of, you know, I loved Parasite when I watched it, so went back and watched Snowpiercer. I don't really know what to make of it.
Sure.
It's a little bit all over the place. It feels a bit unfocused.
Yes.
It's not necessarily bad, but tonally, I don't really know what to make of it. The first sort of 10, 15 minutes of the movie where they're in the end of the train. They're in whatever that's called, you know, the slums of the train, basically. Yeah. The first 10 minutes feels like quite like it's making a real point about class and about conditions and living conditions, and it's all very serious. And I thought I was sort of in for that movie, but once they escape that the end of the train and they start moving towards the middle of the train, which happens very quick, they don't mess about. The movie doesn't spend time setting stuff up. It's like these guys are stuck in the back and today's the day they're going to try and get out, and then they do. But when they get halfway through the middle of the train, now it's like, forget all that kind of poverty class stuff. Now it's like, how would the world work if the world was entirely on a train? How would a school work on a train? Here you go. How would a sushi restaurant work, but it's on a train?
Yeah.
Oh, let's explore that. How would a nightclub work, but on a train? How would a sauna work? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, they go, oh, that'd be a good idea. Like, imagine like a school, but it has to be in the confines of a train. And it's like, yeah, it is interesting, but it's like, you know, 20 minutes ago, we were like, you know, living conditions and slums and class warfare. Like, what happened to all that? Especially because at the start, obviously, everybody in that class of the train are all pulling together to try and break their way out of the shackles of living in those awful conditions in the back of the train. But then it sort of turns into like a A-team movie where only 5 of them decide to go onwards, and they've all got their different characters, and like you got the leader and you got the sassy woman, and then you got the 2 Asian characters who are a bit crazy and they want the drug thing, and I'm not sure about the ending either, or what the ending's trying to say. For people that don't know, I'm just going to spoil it because this movie's old, but
sure.
The movie ends with effectively the train derailing because of the actions of the characters, and one of the characters and a small child survives and steps out into like a snowy tundra, which previously didn't seem inhabitable at all because it was too cold, and now might be. But like, they step out and they are supposed to be the only 2 humans left on Earth, and they're in a icy, snowy tundra in the middle of nowhere. Wrecked train, no food, and it's like they even show a shot like a polar bear looking at them, and it's like, I don't. Is the message here?
Shot's so weird.
Yeah.
Is the message here? Don't overthrow the evil authoritarian empire and stay in your classes.
So
and in your class system forever. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah.
I wasn't the biggest fan of this film when I first watched it. I thought it looked really great. It is a very interesting premise, and once you sort of stop thinking of it as a logical film and more of a just general metaphor, it's more of a fable than it is a film. Like, it's sort of like it was better in my mind for that. And I do completely agree with you in that the middle lost its way quite a bit. Like, it's like they start off with like, oh, we have to eat the bugs and it's the only way we can conserve it. And it's like, oh, well, these guys have got like saunas and stuff. And it's like, I get it, because the middle class and like the upper class, you know, they have the success that they don't need, sort of thing. But then I wish that they did more world building about like, and even then maybe sow more seeds of doubt as to like the only reason that these people are kept on this train for this system is so that the higher class can benefit completely from them, and that actually maybe outside it's fine, but they have this life of luxury. So if there was that sort of thing, it's like, overthrow, get equality sort of thing makes sense. But instead, it does leave you with the, as you say, Chris Evans and little child survive after everyone. It's not
Chris Evans. It's not Chris Evans. Chris Evans dies.
Oh, he dies. Okay,
the Asian character.
Okay,
that's the thing. It's a small girl, and even
they're fucking dead, dude.
Well, that's what my impression is when they step on this train.
Well, that's it. At the end, it's like
off the train. At the end, everyone else is dead, and all their food is now smashed up in this abandoned train. They're in an icy tundra.
Don't fight the system. Just stay with what you got, because otherwise everyone's dead. Could be that is the way it could have been interpreted. If I know that's not what he's going for, but like I can see a lot of people thinking that.
Like it's not boring.
No,
and it is an interesting concept. And the thing I said about how would a train work how would a school work if it was a train, right? And everything's got to be in these narrow train carriages. That sort of stuff is interesting, and it is a weird thing to sort of imagine. Like, how would the world still function if everything had to be on a train carriage? It doesn't, of course. It sets up that and says that they're a fully functioning society, but it's all on a train, and then shows you maybe a few answers to some of the questions you have, like how does the school work, but then doesn't answer a million other questions you have, like how does surgery happen, or where do people sleep, where do the upper class live?
Yeah. Because
they spend a lot of time in a club, but where do all these people live?
Where do they see
the carriages?
Where's this fuel for this eternal train coming from? And
I don't know if they explain the fuel.
Maybe they do. I don't know.
I watched it recently. I can't remember.
I don't remember that much, if I'm honest.
I think it might actually. I think they explain it away because the guy is a perpetual motion machine. I think.
Oh,
and
right.
the guy just invented it or something.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I do remember that. They make a big deal out of that.
Yeah.
It made a bigger deal of like the rich or evil in this film compared to Parasite, which is kind of interesting because like.
Yes. However, what I think is that Parasite does a better job of making you think about class and class difference than. Snowpiercer, and Snowpiercer's way more in your face about it. Snowpiercer is literally like the rich are the bad guys here.
Yes,
this is the main antagonist.
He's the
richest on the train. Yeah, but Parasite doesn't really throw it in your face as much, but has a better sends the message across better.
Well, yeah, Parasite. I mean, obviously that's the whole point of Parasite is that they don't even portray what you would expect the rich people to be the villains, but they portray them as like. Just sort of nice, normal people, really, which is kind of interesting.
Ignorant, if not ignorant and naive, and it's much more subtle and
I completely agree. Big Daddy Bong is definitely stepped up. Apparently,
I tell you what, if I watch Parasite and the next day Snowpiercer and I didn't know anything about the directors, I would not have said it's Bong. I would not have guessed it's the same director. Yeah. So if you loved Parasite and you're like, I want more of that, I wouldn't necessarily recommend Snowpiercer.
Watch a film called The Host, which I also watched, which is one
of I need to
other Korean-speaking films.
That's the monster film, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Really good.
I've downloaded Mother and Memories of a Murder, which also apparently are really good films of his. So I'll watch those.
Yeah, I've watched those too.
Fair enough. Have you got anything to add to that, Martin?
Snowpiercer's okay. They've just, I think I agree with everything Matt said. It's important to note that maybe they have actually just started a TV series based on the film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think it's pretty much the same, but it's going to be drawn out more. So maybe we'll get to see how trains work.
How trains work. I think that's the subtitle.
How does the gym work in the train, mate? So let's move on. So we talked about Snowpiercer. I think I'll talk about a film that I watched from this year. It's a little film called The Invisible Man.
I heard very, very positive things about this.
Interesting.
I don't think you like.
I've heard mixed.
Okay.
But I've also heard it's way better than it should have been.
My opinions have changed over the course of. They've definitely got better than what my original impressions were. Maybe it's because I was watching with my dad. I don't know. But
Yeah,
okay, to preface this, I watched this director's first film, Upgrade. His name's Lee Wannell. It's his first film called his first major film, and I thought Upgrade was absolutely fantastic. Wonderful action film, lots of plot twists, really amazing camera work and action scenes where the action would be shot quite normally when because the preface of this film would be that he's paralyzed from the neck down. He has a chip put into his spine that's sort of like an AI Siri that controls his movements. So when he's doing it, it's shot normally, but then when the AI's done it, it tracks his body movements perfectly. So all the shots look very strange and robotic. Honestly, a very, very, very good film. I was very pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it. So when I heard that he was directing this film, I was like, okay, I'll watch that first before I watch The Invisible Man. Interesting. Lee Wannell is a very, very good director. Whether or not he's a good writer, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously this is based on The Invisible Man, the classic, monster
movie.
Yeah. But it's done in a different way. The film thematically isn't like goofy monster film. He drinks a potion, becomes invisible. It's more about getting away from an abusive relationship.
Okay.
And the camera work in this film is excellent. The scenes and set pieces are excellent, and the acting is excellent, and the effects are really good considering this film was made for $7 million. It's incredible how good the effects are.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is with this film is that it isn't. There's a lot of scenes written into it that are just very silly. I don't want to go into too much spoilers because I do think people should watch it. It's at least as much as I'm I shit on the film in a lot of ways. Because of how silly it is and how just it really neuters its own premise by just completely baffling writing decisions. It's a thoroughly entertaining film, and I was thoroughly entertained while watching it, and I really do think this director has got a bright future. But I don't want to spoil anything. But obviously there's an invisible man who's completely invisible, and his ex who's tried to escape. They do this thing of is he dead? Is he dead from the start, or is he the invisible man? So is she going crazy? Is she being gaslit? That's the theme.
Yeah. Okay.
Lots of great scenes about this and how it's breaking down her relationships with her friends and family and stuff, and how the control is getting taken away from her. But then they have scenes where it's let's say, for instance, she's in a place where she's been under lock and key guarded, and then she's sort of escaped, and then guards are getting beaten up by this invisible force, and 8 different guards come around the corners one by one, hey, whoa, what's happening? And they keep pointing the gun at this woman, hey, stop this. And then there's 3 of them, and one of the guards gets beaten up and shot, and the guards are still pointing the gun at the woman, what are you doing? What are you doing? And it's what? Honestly, and at any point she has an actual gun in her hand, and she doesn't choose to shoot at all. And there's lots of just baffling decisions. There's lots of really great okay, she knows that this guy's invisible. How is she going to find him? Oh, she has waited until the weather forecast has said that it's going to rain, and she's going to get him to go outside so she can see the rain spattering off him. Excellent. Oh, it's so fucking clever. It's so great.
Yeah.
But then when she does that, she doesn't take a gun with her or anything, and she doesn't ask people to convince them. There's loads of times where she has clear evidence that this thing has happened.
Yeah.
But people don't, and there's some twists which are that makes a lot of sense as to why this happened, and then there's lots of twists as to that doesn't make any sense. Why have you done this? You've only done that for a thing at the end of the film, but you would never have any idea that would happen, and
on that,
it's really frustrating.
I've not watched it, but I've heard that a big problem with it is on the point where, because In the movie, I'm guessing
Mhm.
people don't know about this invisible man, right? They don't believe her. She's like, it's an invisible man, but they don't believe her. But apparently, there's like loads of inconsistencies of like, there's a scene at a restaurant or at a cafe or something, and it's like surely a camera would have picked this up somewhere.
That is one of the biggest, like, it's a shocking scene, but it's done in front of so many people with cameras and stuff. And it's just like, look at the cameras, you'll see it.
Yeah,
but there's other things where like they do things similar to that, which are like done well, and it's like, oh, I can see why, like, but just don't do it in a public restaurant where there's clearly cameras.
There's a million witnesses.
Small. I mean, the witnesses doesn't matter. They get around that. It's just cameras.
Okay, I understand.
And they even reference that later in the film where they know there's cameras in a place, and so they angle it so that you can't see the thing based on the cameras. So it's just like, oh, you just forgot about that. That's really annoying. But it was made for $7 million. It grossed, I think it. Listen, I have actually the gross here. It made $122 million. Absolutely smashed it. It was like they put it in cinemas for something like 3 weeks and then put it straight into like you could buy it. Like I'm pretty sure that was what it was like. Cinemas for 2 weeks and then you could buy it from like Sky Movies and stuff. And it's done really well.
Invisible Man 2 on the way then. Invisible Reloaded.
I hope not. Definitely not. Lots of potential there. I do recommend people watch it, even though I didn't like the thematic stuff worked, the acting worked, the effects worked. It's just if you can get over that doesn't really make sense. That this has happened.
Tense? Was the film tense?
Very tense. Yeah, they do this great thing where obviously. The film's titled The Invisible Man, and straight up they go, this man's died, but he was a master at optics. And there's like things happen where you clearly know there's an invisible man. And so they do this thing where they hang on loads of shots, just wide open empty shots.
Yeah, so you can try and pick him out.
And like, it really great. He has a bright future ahead of him. But yeah, That's my film review. I do recommend it, with caveats.
Cool.
Martin, let's move on to something you've watched.
Okay. I've watched loads of not good films, so it might just sound like I'm not impressed by anything. Movies, but I watched a film called The Aeronauts, which came out. I don't even know when it came out, but it was on Amazon Prime. So I watched that, and it stars Felicity something, and Eddie Redmayne. And Eddie Redmayne is somewhere between his Theory of Everything, which is very good, and his Jupiter Ascending. He's okay in it.
Sure.
And the girl from Rogue One, who I can't remember her name, was
Jyn Erso.
Very good at it. That's her name in Rogue One. But yes. It was good. That it was about a story of. I think it was based on a true story, but in the sense where this thing probably happened. We're going to formulate an entire story around it and just add in loads of emotions, which probably didn't happen. But it stars a kind of scientist who wants to get all these kind of readings so he can predict the weather. Obviously he keeps theorizing this and people are like, predict the weather, are you mad? And you're like watching this of in present day, like, he's not mad, that's entirely a thing people can do. Oh, isn't that great? And I don't know, it was like loads of like it's a balloon going up and then going down. Like how I don't even know how anyone greenlit this film. Like at the end of the day, like they added some kind of like they dramatized it as much as they could with like, oh, there's a fucking storm and now it's perfectly sky, oh, and everything's good. Oh, now they're too high and it's icy, and then and oh, everyone passes out because they're too cold. But then the woman regains consciousness and something needs to be done at the top of the balloon, so she climbs the entire balloon, risks her life.
Oh no.
And then I was like,
they were definitely like, how do we take this mildly interesting story and wedge it into a 3-act blockbuster movie. Yeah.
And then on top of that is, even though there's only 2 characters on screen and they are talking and they're talking about their past, there just didn't feel like there was any kind of emotional connection by the end of the film, at least for me. That there was a lot of like threading in the female who was kind of the aeronaut, the one that was actually flying it, went on a kind of similar trip in a hot air balloon previously, and things went bad, and there were kind of flashes of someone falling, and she was a widow, and you about a second after that got you. But they keep threading it in, like the director and the writers are just like, oh, wait till they find out. And then I guess you meant to care for her because the husband's died. It wasn't bad though. Like, it was everything that needed to be done in terms of direction and cinematography, acting. It was just standard. If anyone was to just say, like, let's watch a standard movie where I didn't have to worry about being too sad or too happy, or it was just this thing happened. It was not, when someone will say, oh, do you remember Aeronauts, in like 5 years time, I'll go, no. Oh no, yeah I do. It's that time.
Sure.
It won't stick with me. But I have watched when we get to one film I have watched, I will speak passionately about it. that I enjoyed those.
Okay. Until then.
Until then.
Fuck all movies.
Fucking movies are shit. Actually, that makes sense. I'm gonna get off. I'm just gonna rattle off films that I don't think are very interesting or don't care about that I've watched, that I could sum up in like 2 lines.
Yeah. Here we go. Right, each film. Okay. You get 2, maybe 3 sentences to do the review.
Lion King. Yeah. Stupid Dumb. Really look good. A lion, but stupid dumb. Why remake? Money, Disney money.
You don't have to.
It's not.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I wasn't asking you to turn into a cave. Film bad.
Jazz, Pumbaa fart in water, and they go, oh, Simba.
Lion King bad. Me sad.
Yeah. No, it was. I watched The Lion King. It wasn't very good. Because it looks very impressive, but loses the character that the cartoon has, as expected. The songs and the voice cast are like, Donald Glover's great, but like everything else is like, yeah, that's fine, but it's not. It's just you're trying to compare it to the classic. You're never going to stand up. Anything it adds for its own thing is sort of not that good. Yeah, no. Also, they had someone do Rafiki's voice. And the Rafiki in the original was very like wacky and like shaman. No, that Rafiki's the monkey, and it was done by some guy. But in this, they do it. It's Black Panther's dad, the actor who plays him, and he's just like sounds like just normal guy, and I'm just like, oh, okay. It's weird that major character hasn't got any. I don't know, whatever. But no, not for me. Thanks. See you later. I'll also talk about Dolittle. I watched the first 15 minutes where I actually couldn't understand what Robert Downey Jr. was saying because his accent was so weirdly thick and Scottish. I think he was trying to do Scottish, and he was so weird and wacky. I couldn't comprehend what he was saying, and then he started squawking and doing animal noises, and so I fell asleep. Yeah, no, don't recommend it. What else?
Just to say, I don't know how true this is, but in my head it's true because I find it hilarious. Apparently, like a lot of the future Robert Downey Jr. projects, like a new Iron Man or whatever else he was lined up to do, were all basically put on hold by him. And he put his foot down and he was like, look, all these other things I'm signed up and like contract obligated to do and I've agreed to do, they're all second to this Dolittle film, which is my passion.
I've heard stuff like that. Like he was quite passionate for it.
True, but I read about this, and I just want it to be true because apparently he was like, "Fuck everything else. This Doolittle thing is going to be like my baby. I'm putting everything into this. Everything else is going to be on pause. This is going to be my movie." The director let him have like free reign and stuff because they were like, Christ, Robert. Sure, I didn't know you fucking love this shit so much.
It definitely feels like he had free reign. I mean, he tries his best, like to do like loads of weird, wacky acting, but the plot was, you're the only one who can speak to animals. You have to go to a place to get something to cure the queen. You shut yourself off from humans because humans are bad. You need to learn to love again.
All right.
It's just so boring.
It's just funny that it's like this is a big passion project, and it seems like it's definitely a critical flop. I'm guessing it's a commercial one too. But
Doolittle actually got it grossed 220 million. I don't know how much the budget was.
All movies.
It might be quite high.
Money. It might be high, but
I don't know.
Oh man. I don't know anyone.
I mean, I watched that trailer in the cinema, and I have a pretty good knack for knowing what's quite good and what's quite bad from a trailer, which is quite surprising because you think the job of a trailer is to make a film look good. So I shouldn't really be able to
you
work
think
it
they
out
all look good.
Yeah. But I did watch that trailer and thought, this is going to be awful.
Yeah, I do get that. That's you sort of you pick it up after a while. Like, I don't expect this to be good. I was wrong with Sonic, if I'm honest, but there's every now and then it was 170 million the budget, so it's made its money back just.
It made it back. Yeah, okay.
But that still counts as a flop, right? The definition of a flop, I think, is if it doesn't double its money.
Yeah, I would say it's a flop.
I think.
And they're making a Doolittle too. Let's just say that.
No. I like the Invisible Man too.
It's just like the thing that annoys me most at the moment is that, like, in my opinion, like if a film's extremely bad or gets really bad reviews and doesn't even do that well financially, but it not like tanks, but isn't like a oh my god, well done everyone, pat yourself on the back. It can still just get a sequel nowadays. It's just like the board are just like, oh yeah, fuck it, we'll just It's almost like they're signed up all the actors for like 2 or 3 films prior to the first one.
We could get into like Hollywood and obsession with sequels and don't take any risks ever, but
franchises are the bankable names.
All right,
movies, guys.
Last 2 quickly ones. The Gentleman, which came out at the start of this year. It's a Guy Ritchie movie. It's good. It's like, if you like Snatch and Lock, Stock, you'll like this film. It's well acted. Hugh Grant says the word cunt quite a lot.
Nice.
It has a really stylish sequence where there's like 5 kids who are like criminals doing a YouTube video where they also fight, and like the fight is set to like a grime song and like edited as a YouTube video as like a grime song. It's a really creative, great little sequence. And I mean, if you like twists and double twists that sort of don't really make sense, but whatever, it's pretty good. But then the only thing that like I remember going, ooh, that's this is like a decent film. You don't need to. Is that there's some weirdly right wing views in it, like someone they're talking to each other, and someone says to this other character, "Shut up, you black cunt." And then he goes, "That's racist. You can't say that." And then Colin Farrell stops, stares at the camera, says, "It's not racist." He's saying it with affection. He goes, "But why did he have to specify that I'm black? It's because you are black and you're a cunt." God. And I'm like, no. It's like you did.
The director. It's like someone that conversation happened with the director, and he got so annoyed. And it's also written by Guy Ritchie.
Yes, it is. And I was like, oh my god! And his explanation, you can sort of see it's like that boomer, curse boomer post or whatever, where he stares at the camera smugly, like I've just put him in his place. And I'm like, no, he literally made a valid point, and you just said no. It's not because I don't mean it to be racist. And it's like, that's not okay. And that happened 3 times in the film, and I was sort of like, not okay with that.
Is, not I just can't see him making a modern day movie.
No, I mean, there's like gay jokes, black jokes, and like your standard like. I don't know. I was a bit like, you don't need that. It's just it's really weird. Yeah, but apart from
liked it.
He loved it. I'm not even joking. Yeah, but in fairness, well shot, well acted, decent, fun. So, yeah.
Got to Caveman again.
Yeah, pretty much. And the last film I'll rag off before we get to like anything else is Jumanji 2, The Last Level. First Jumanji was quite interesting, and it had a fun mechanic of the actors had to act as different characters.
Yes.
Yeah, so like The Rock had to play like a nerdy, wimpy kid.
Sure.
And like stuff. Great. That's a great premise. Jack Black playing like a teenage girl who's like, very Instagram popular sort of thing. In this, they do this. I thought they were going to do the same thing, but just here's Danny. They're doing Danny Glover and Danny DeVito, Donald Glover and Danny DeVito, and I was like, oh, that's fine, that's fun, it's fun, but like, whatever. But then they introduce a sort of mechanic halfway through where the players inside these avatars swap around, so you get like The Rock and all these characters. Like Awkwafina is so good at doing a Danny DeVito impression.
I see.
They all just swap around, and it's very fun, but they're just bouncing off each other doing these impressions. I wish there was more of it, but whatever. It's fine. It's a solid 5.
When those Jumanji reboots got announced and the trailers and stuff, I was like, man, in a way, the cast, I was like, man, these are going to be stinkers. But from everything I've heard, they're actually okay, family.
I enjoyed
friendly.
the first one.
The first one's pretty good, and the second one is fine.
That's all you can ask for.
Controversially, I've seen a lot of stuff
when you're trying to dig up Robin Williams' grave.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, controversially, I've seen a lot of people say that the original Jumanji isn't even very good, and that these are better. But I won't go there.
Let's not go there. Let's not be silly now.
I actually watched it again the other day. It still holds up.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So that's my 4 rattled off. So by all means, whoever wants to talk about the next film, go ahead.
I always talk about. Can I go? Because actually, the only reason I'm going to say, I think we've all seen this. I hope so. Good Time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you have a good time watching Good Time?
Yeah, I did. It was good.
It was good. A good time.
It was a damn good time.
Well, I'm glad we spoke about that.
Did you watch it having had watched Uncut Gems then? Is that where you went from?
Yes. So Uncut Gems is amazing and a beautiful thriller, edge of your seat movie. Watch Uncut Gems. So then I went back and watched this, but I knew nothing about it at all. I didn't even know Robert Pattinson was in it until the opening scene. I was like, oh, it's fucking Robert Pattinson, but he's blonde now. But I really, really enjoyed it. It's really good. Again, it's one of those movies with very little breaks in the sense that there's no time skip. He wakes up the next day, like everything just happened one after the other to this character. And he's always about trying to fix things, and it feels very real. It has that kind of aspect to it as well. It's funny that actually a lot of the movie happens because the character, Robert Pattinson's character, makes a mistake and breaks the wrong person out of a hospital. He goes into a hospital so there's a big scene about getting into the hospital.
That character's amazing as well.
There's a big scene about getting into hospital and then getting the guy out and then getting him home and then talking to him and stuff. And it's all like really well done. It's on your seats. Oh, is he going to get him out of the hospital? Is he not? How is he going to slip past the guard there? Like, what's he going to do to get around that, etc., etc. And then he succeeds, and you're like, oh yeah, that was a really interesting way to do that. And it turns out it's all for nothing. He just made a mistake, and he cracked out the wrong guy. And really, that's sort of the sense the film. Yeah, sorry, it's the sort of the sense the film gives, where it starts with a plan of him robbing a bank with his brother, basically, and it goes wrong. And every single moment from there is just a continuation of they're trying to fix the thing that went wrong, but then they've made it even worse. and he's trying to fix that, but he's made it even worse. And now he's broken a guy out of a hospital because he thought that it was his brother and that he could, solve the problem. Oh no, I've just broken out some random guy. How am I going to fix this? Well, now I've got to bring this guy somewhere. I will get back to the hospital, and then on their way back to the hospital, that obviously goes wrong. And it's almost like a few times. It almost crosses the line of like ridiculousness. Oh, come on. Like, how does he keep getting away with this? But it doesn't ever go too far with it. And because of that, it keeps it quite realistic. And it's just in the same way, I think Uncut Gems is better. But in the same way Uncut Gems does, it's overwhelming because the guy can't catch a break. And he doesn't make things easy for himself either. He doesn't ever step away when he should.
It's very, very similar style and also very similar plot in the sense that you kind of, because he's the main guy of the film, you're kind of drawn to his story and you want to see what he does next, but he's not the good guy.
No, he's not likable, really.
He's not likable at all.
He's a very talented liar. What I will give, in my opinion, I think I preferred this film to Uncut Gems. Obviously, I loved Uncut Gems, don't get me wrong. I just think this film was slightly more relatable in a... Uncut Gems is like not rich, but like a big jewel dealer. There's like celebrities and like this sort of like weird world. Whereas in Good Times, it's like everything that happens is very much like, I could see this, me, like if I had to do this in this situation, this is what would happen. The lies that he says and like goes through and the actions he does are very, I think, believable and make sense. And like the fuck ups as well. Like I completely thought, okay, it makes complete sense as to why he's gone to the hospital to get this person here. It makes complete sense. And it's a mistake because oh shit, yeah. I mean, it probably is a mistake. He didn't really check that hard because obviously he couldn't. Which made, and then like the way he like sort of stayed at the like woman's house for a little bit and like got over these sort of like, weird things. It's like the lies he says are like sort of make sense. And then at the theme park, like that's so, and it's such a great like loads of great things. And then I'm like, oh, why are they going to that guy's apartment? And it's like, okay, that makes sense as to why they've done that, because it's like, no, it's really, I really enjoyed this film. The Safdie brothers, really talented.
Yeah, they've got a nice, and I would like to see them do other things, but they've got a nice niche going on about these very intense movies that are intense because they're relentless.
They're definitely getting like a kind of indie following, like quite large swell online of people that are just
And both Uncut Gems and Good Time, they're not intense in the same way 1917's intense because there's explosions and deaths around the corner and you're on the edge of your seat. It's intense because
it's just intense because
it's because in other kind of movies that are told in a regular way, there's peaks and troughs, right? And there's a peak at the end of the first act, and then the movie will slow down again into a peak to the second, and then you come to a conclusion at the end, and then it's a nice slow ride to the finish. But the Safdie brothers are like, fuck that shit. From minute one, you think that this can't get any worse for these characters. Yeah. Then it constantly does, and then it's just the next thing rolls into the next thing, into the next thing, and it's just really interesting way of kind of storytelling. Makes you feel tired watching it. Yeah. You just like cry. Oh, I need a break. Let alone this character who's going through it.
You need a shower after watching the films.
We'll definitely watch it as well. Also, sort of a newfound respect. Maybe is not the word, but I found myself liking Robert Pattinson way more than I thought I would.
Is Robert Pattinson the best actor in Hollywood currently?
He's really great in Good Time.
Probably
really
second.
Behind Willem Dafoe.
No. Probably behind Adam Driver.
Oh, okay. That is fair enough. Fair enough. Nice. Big Daddy Driver.
But I would say, if like the few indie films that Robert Pattinson's done since like Twilight, and also Kirsten Stewart, both of them have like really, they're like hot commodities right now. They're doing, other than Charlie's Angels, like Charlie's Angels.
Oh no.
Apparently, but both of them have, like, the projects they've taken on since Twilight have been some really indie powerhouses. And I can't wait for Batman. Actually, I think he's going to be.
Me neither.
Batman.
That is. I'm so excited for the guy who did the Planet of the Apes reboots, along with Robert Pattinson as Batman.
Yeah.
And they took time for the Batman film because of the coronavirus. They looked at it and they looked at some of the footage and really tested it, and they thought that they're going to take some time to change some of the tone and work on it a little bit more. I reckon we'll probably get an even better film because of this virus.
Nice.
So yeah,
good time. Watch it. Also, the music is really great. It's by an artist band. I actually don't know. I'll say artist.
Yeah, it's
10 Tricks Point Never.
Is it the same guy who did Uncut Gems, or?
Yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah,
it's like,
he also did a bit of The Weeknd's.
Oh,
yes,
really?
Yes. It's like weird, distorted synths. It's very interesting for him. It's not,
it really adds to the film.
Not orchestrated, violin set pieces. It's weird synth music, and it really adds to it. Definitely watch a good time.
Nice. Yeah, I recommend it as well. Mark, have you got another film that we can talk about?
Yeah, I watched Fighting with My Family.
Oh yes,
which I think came out last year. Honestly, it was one of those films where, because it's set in the UK, and it's got a low budget, and I didn't really know many people in the film other than Florence Pugh. Is that how you say her name? I'm not sure.
Yes.
I was thinking I think the first few jokes just didn't really hit with me, and I was like, oh, this is going to be like a real pretty average, cast the check in film. But as the film went on, and you got an emotional connection to each of the characters and the storyline, it became it's a really good 8 out of 10 film. It's a really good story. I have no interest in wrestling. I know, Matt, you do. From me, my perspective, not having any interest in wrestling, it really was good even for me. So, and I'm sure it would be interesting for people who were interested in wrestling as well, who knew her story or knew vaguely of her.
Yeah.
It's got John Cena in as well, so
Indeed, I think that's probably the biggest compliment you can give it is, even for people that have no interest in the subject matter that the film is about, it makes you care about it. So cool.
it's a fish out of water and a not a coming of age, but kind of a zero to hero story. So
cool.
And who doesn't love them if they're done right?
Written by
Stephen Merchant.
Stephen Merchant.
Oh really?
And directed, and he's just in it, but subtly, like how some comedy directors are. They'll just put a comedy scene with them in. One scene.
Good.
Yeah, he's good. It's good cast actually. Nick Frost as the dad, Lena Headey as the mum.
Oh yeah, damn.
Isn't it based on a real story as well?
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's what we were all just talking about. But
okay, sorry, I may have just drowned.
Yeah, it's based on a true wrestler called. Her stage name is called Paige. Stage name? I don't know, wrestling name?
Yeah.
And she comes from Norwich.
Class.
And she's kind of, she goes to this, the wrestling school in which they learn their stuff, and she's surrounded by kind of a lot of models who are going into wrestling. That's in terms of female wrestlers, and she's obviously kind of got a look. She's got a very goth-esque look, so she kind of she has a few scenes where she kind of has a self-crisis about her looks and stuff, and then in the end she sticks with those looks. It's a nice message as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a good film. It's not I'm not gonna put it in my top 10 for this year or even last year. But it's not. It's really solid.
Okay.
Maybe perhaps even better than solid. I'd say 8 out of 10. So
I may give it a
watch. Yeah, I've got a few films that I'd like to rattle off quite quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
Both,
do the jazz
thing.
Go on.
But yeah, both documentaries actually. So the Apollo 11 documentary, which has unseen footage, that's only just kind of come out and been remastered of just the whole Apollo 11 mission is just amazing. It's so good. There is no, like, in terms of documentaries where you have a voiceover and it's like, this is now happening, there was none of that. It just follows, like, it just follows what happened.
Nice.
And then you've got the kind of radio control, so that's kind of giving what, like, the dialogue or the story behind it. And
the narrator,
like, and then when it's probably the closest thing that you'd experience to actually watching it as a TV as a kid or like as an adult at that time, and you're like, because when they were landing and like all the tests and all the dockings of the scenes, I mean, is there ever a docking scene in cinema that's not tense? But also all those scenes, it was so good, so good. And then quickly I watched Three Identical Strangers, which came out last year in the cinemas, which is a Film 4 documentary about these three brothers who were separated at birth. I don't know if anyone's ever heard the story. And so one of them went to the same uni as another one, and everyone kept saying hi to him, and he was like, what the fuck? And then they met, and then they put the story in the newspaper, and then the next day a third one rang in and was just like, what? And I thought it was just going to be a feel-good story about that, but then it just got fucking dark.
Oh, really?
There were reasons why they were separated from birth, almost like conspiracy levels, but there's like loads of truth behind it. And then there's still loads of unanswered questions. And it's based, like, not to give too much away, but it was kind of all a bit of an experiment done with lots of twins around that age in America. That's very, very good. So I recommend those two documentaries.
That sounds really interesting.
Nice. The one thing I will mention quickly before we do a final, only because we mentioned him, or Martin mentioned him earlier, I watched a movie called The Report with Adam Driver. Amazon original, or it's on Prime. I think.
What was the name of the film? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
The Report.
Oh, okay. Never heard.
Effectively, it's a movie about a man that looks into how the CIA handled torture in the Iraq War and how they went about their processes of interrogation. And unsurprisingly, they fucked up badly, and they all got covered up, and the CIA quickly swept it all under the stuff. And it's Adam Driver's character's job to do a report and to basically expose it if it needs to be exposed. It was really good for a movie which is effectively Adam Driver sitting at a computer typing for 2 hours, whatever it is.
Nice.
For a subject matter that is kind of this hard to make an exciting movie about, in a way, they did a really good job of keeping you interested and keeping you on your edge of your seat and stuff. And Adam Driver is just so good and just fantastic. He's just so likable, relatable. It's something about Adam Driver. I don't know, it's an Adam podcast. Something about his face. He's just he's on the border where it's like, I don't know, it's like he's not ugly, but like he doesn't look like he should be in a movie. Do you know what I mean?
He's like Benedict Cumberbatch. He's got an interesting face. He's not conventionally handsome.
It just makes him like relatable. I don't know. Watch it.
Is it because he looks a little bit like you, but with more muscles?
Well, don't want to toot my own horn. I don't know. Wait, actually, I don't even know that sort of sums up. I don't know. But sort of sums up Adam Driver. But it doesn't get too dark either. It doesn't weigh too heavy on torture is bad, because they get that across very quickly. They don't have to hammer that home. I think they respect the viewer enough to know that what they did was wrong. But there's a lot more about how the judicial system works, how the CIA and the FBI in America work sometimes together, but sometimes opposite each other. And it's more about stuff like that and how to push things through in a process and do things in the right way and legally. And if that sounds boring, it's because it definitely could have been, but the movie does a good job of making it not.
Surprisingly bureaucratic red tape. I mean, I wouldn't expect that to be like an interesting
sort of is like the movie. I mean, a big plot point in the movie is that they ban Adam Driver's character from interviewing anyone that actually worked on the project. So instead, he has to trawl through email logs and things like this. Again, sounds boring, but it's done really well and it's interesting.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose if you compare it to like the subject of torture, which is kind of out there as a subject matter, I suppose the juxtaposition can be quite maybe a good fit for it.
I think it was just an interesting concept to do a movie on, and I think they succeeded in making it interesting. So yeah, it was good.
Okay.
Watch it. Amazon Prime, I think. So
nice.
If you want a bit of driver in your life, you need some more Adam D.
Cool. I'll rattle off just two more quick ones because I don't think there's too much interesting to say about them before I talk about the film that I've watched this year that I love the most. And then if you guys have any like things that you want to discuss quite heavily, then we could do that too. So I watched Police Story, which was a Jackie Chan kung fu film from the early 80s. Hong Kong own. It's the stunts and the charisma of Jackie Chan are incredible, absolutely incredible. The story itself is nonsense. Doesn't really whatever. Who cares? You punch people. But I mean, like, he's a cop who fights, and it's like clearly this sort of like Chinese sense of humor that I don't think translates very well. But there are some scenes where it does. Like, there's a whole scene where Jackie Chan is trying to convince someone that she may be attacked, so he hires someone to like pretend to attack her, and it all works and it's like fine until she knocks him out accidentally, and then Jackie Chan uses his martial arts skill to sort of stage a pretend fight with himself.
I see.
And like he's like propping him up and stuff, and like she knocks him out like 3 times in a row, and he's like, no, he's still got me, and he's like throwing his hand, he's like grabbing him by the throat and like throwing himself around. Really, I mean, Jackie Chan is the most charismatic man you'll ever meet. And there's a bit where he's hanging onto a bus with an umbrella, and it's like a real shot where he's hanging on to the actual bus with just an umbrella, and it's like, I can't believe they did this. So many people get thrown through glass and smash their faces into fucking things, and like it hurt. It's great. But then at the end of the film, like where you'd think there'd be like I've got the bad guy, don't worry, police, I've got him. It's like, oh no, he actually ruins it right at the end just so he can get a punch in, and that's how they end the film, which is a bizarre ending, but I laughed a lot. So yeah, I recommend it. It's a very good martial art film. Hustlers, also a film I watched, nominated for, I think Jennifer Lopez got snubbed for an Oscar, wasn't it?
Yeah, snubbed, yeah.
She is amazing for someone who's 52.
Yeah.
And wow. The film's actually really good. The problem is it's based on like a true story crime, and they stay very faithful to the crime. And so the ending is a lot more boring than, a blockbuster would be, because it's like, oh, well, the police did this and they found out this thing and this thing. And it's like, oh, this like whole story is ramping up to be like, oh, someone dies or something, and then this sort of happens. But it's like, oh no, it's quite a bureaucratic ending, in my opinion, which, it keeps faithful to the story, but I feel like, maybe take some liberties or something would have made it a better film. But in fairness, I enjoyed the film enough. So, very good. Jennifer Lopez. Wow. Wowee. Amazing.
Nice.
Okay, so is there any other films that anybody wants to talk about heavily before I talk about Colour of Space?
I'm okay. I think I'm done. All out. I watched a movie called Blockers.
Oh yeah,
it's a comedy with John Cena in it. It's all right. It's an all right family movie. It revolves around 3 girls, and it's like a coming of age thing as they go to prom, which sounds like it could be cringe inducing, but it does a good job of not being. Works well because the characters feel actually like friends, and it's not like amazing. It still falls into too many traps of this is a family kids movie comedy. So you know what's funny? Characters throwing up. That's always funny.
Oh.
They all throw up on they all vomit on each other at the same time.
It's the Family Guy sketch.
There's a scene where they all vomit on each other in a car. But apart from that, and it's nothing highbrow. But apart from that, it's all right, and the cast is good, and don't know. I really quite like John Cena.
Is John Cena good in it again? Because he seems to be a good actor.
He's good in it. And I sort of expected this when he started moving over.
He's got that charisma already.
Yeah, and it's just funny, and just like seeing a guy in a weird way his size, and he's playing some goofy character, goofy dad who's like overprotective of his daughter, but he's not playing a hard man character. And then like at one point he gets like a beer bong shoved up his arse, and then there's a scene with like, I'm not joking. And there's a scene where his pants and his trousers down, and he's having to like do a speech with his like stuff out, and it's just good. And
I like that he doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yeah, it's just like it's just weirdly fun. Blockers, it's okay if you need like a light heart put on. Don't sit down and be like, wow, it's gonna be the best two hours of my life. If you need like a light-hearted movie to put on with the family or something, then you could go worse.
Fair enough. I haven't heard bad things about it, so that's fair enough. I like John Cena. Martin, have you got anything else to talk about before I gush about The Colour Out of Space?
No, just TV series is all I've been watching.
Sure.
So. I also rewatched Space Jam. It's a great film.
Oh, what were your thoughts on Space Jam after? When did it come out? 1996? Am I right? Or 1993?
Yeah, it's just really solid. I don't know why it gets a lot of hate.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know the acting and the effects are shit.
Yeah, maybe it's because I grew up at a time where it's like, could be my favourite film at a young age. But I figured I'd just rewatch it because I want to go on and watch the new Netflix TV series called The Last Dance. It's called The Last Dance.
Oh, with Michael Jordan, about his like career.
Yeah, it's about one of his last seasons or something like that. Let me just go Google a quick googling to find out what the name of it is. Yeah, it's called The Last Dance. It looks amazing, and I figured, what better way to kind of set myself up for that kind of gritty series than
the most gritty film ever made.
Yeah, The Tasmanian Devil. Am I right? Oof.
The only other piece of work that follows Michael Jordan's career so closely, Space Jam.
I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
I'm excited for the sequel. I hope Michael Jordan turns up in some way.
I think he will. I think he's got a good sense. He'll just be like, fuck it. I don't even know who. Each time they do a sequel, they kind of, or the rumours of a sequel, it just seems to be whatever basketball star is big at the time. I don't know if it's even happening.
I think it genuinely is far in production. It's coming out, mate. I think it's genuinely like it's nearly done. Like someone provided an update recently, like, oh, it's definitely going to be cancelled, right? And they were like, no, this is happening. I'm the same with you. I grew up with Space Jam. I loved it as a child, and like I know everybody hated on it. And so I watched it again. I think about a couple of years ago, and yeah, it's bad, but like I was smiling ear to ear throughout the entire film. It's so goofy and wacky. It does not take itself seriously at all. And
Bill Murray's in it.
Yeah. Bill Murray turns up for like that paycheck, and it's very funny. But it's like even Michael Jordan, it clearly is poking fun at his career, which is quite nice that he can take a joke. And I mean, he is the most wooden actor, but I find that even more endearing. Like if he was like somewhat competent, it would be like, oh, it's fine. But because he's so awkward and uncomfortable in it, I thought it's even better that they've put him next to literal cartoons. Yeah, love Space Jam, and the song is so good.
Mm-hmm.
If Space Jam 2 doesn't knock my socks off, I tell you what, there's gonna be fucking hell to pay.
I really hope that movie doesn't.
I hope it's not boring.
I just leave it alone.
Yeah, I know.
But hey, maybe it'll be good.
Doubt it. Right, okay. Fine. I'll move on to the last film of the night. So the last film I'll talk about is called The Colour Out of Space. There's a lot of interesting stuff about this in that. Richard Stanley, the director, the last film he did was The Island of Dr. Moreau in 1996, which was like there's loads of documentaries about how troubled the actual production of that film was. Like, I think he came in to finish the film, or he was fired from the film, one of the two. And he hasn't done a film since. And so then when he came out and said, I'm doing a Lovecraft adaptation with Nicolas Cage as the main character, I was like, this is going to be wonderful. I've read the story itself, actually. And it's just, standard Lovecraft, like, nightmarish, cosmic horror. And this is the best Lovecraft adaptation for any film I've ever seen. Nicolas Cage is absolutely perfect to play a completely deranged mental character who has a complete psychotic breakdown. All of the characters are introduced quite nicely, and like the setting is set up quite well. And then obviously, alien from space comes down, and as soon as the alien comes down, the whole color palette changes to this like beautiful shade of purple and pink, and like all the visuals are bathed in this beautiful lighting. The scenery changes and becomes more colourful and weird and alien-like. And obviously, since it's a Lovecraft character, all the characters like slowly turn mad, like time distorts, and like places and static electricity distorts all like communication devices. And so any like reason for people being like, oh, why don't they call the police here? It's like, well, they can't. It makes sense why they can't, and it's done. The scenes where they get like possessed and do things, and like the crazy like body horror happens, it's really good. And Nicolas Cage has like just so many breakdowns that are just like really great. And I can't believe this is the only film that this director has done in the last, I think, 24 years. And apparently he's adapting 2 more Lovecraft stories in the coming 2 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah, honestly, they even it's so good. Just the general the cinematography at the end, when I won't spoil anything, but like it gets really weird. They do this like very weird watercolor effect on like moving images, and it looks so good for what it makes. I thoroughly recommend this film. If you like anything to do with Lovecraft, they show off like alien worlds as well at one point, but they don't do the thing which I was worried they'd do, in that they show like the alien straightforward. They like bathe everything in this like weird lights and stuff, and so you can sort of see the shapes of things, like and the colours that they have, but you can't make a clear visual. It's great, and it's a ride, I'll tell you that. A ride into the madness of the human psyche, but it's also a metaphor for cancer, and it's a very good metaphor. I didn't think they would make such an apt metaphor out of an intergalactic cosmic horror space monster and a horrible disease, but it very much works. Also, there's one last thing. I thought they made a line in the film. One of the main characters is black, and because obviously H.P. Lovecraft was a very horrible racist back in the early 1800s or whatever. And so when they talk to him, they're like, "Oh, we got this other character, but I don't know if you should go there. I'm not sure he'll like you." And I was like, "Oh, are they referencing the fact that he's racist and doesn't like black people? Oh, that's quite interesting if they're bringing it up and like addressing it." They don't. He's just a weirdo who actually does like the person. Like, the line is just very weird, and it's sort of implied that it's clearly because he's black.
Yeah. But
I don't know. I really wish you could have just like gone on with that. It wouldn't mattered. But hey, thoroughly recommend it. The Colour Out of Space. Okay, so thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.